This is an Emperor-class battleship tearing a hole in reality. In the 41st millennium, this is how we travel from one edge of the galaxy to another, covering light years in the process. But I think something like this would be more authentic, or, well, accurate. Plunging headfirst into the warp, the Immaterium, the Sea of Souls, a predatory place, dangerous in a way that only a different dimension can possibly be. It harbors inexplicable beings that defy the laws of physics themselves, but it is necessary for the Imperium to function. Every day, thousands of ships travel the warp, delivering resources to far-flung worlds and carrying millions of guardsmen to war. Ships can and do get lost in the warp, but the alternative will be to give up. And you won't find the Imperium giving up, while the Emperor still draws breath. No wait, that doesn't make any sense. The Emperor is a skeleton on a throne, he can't draw breath. The first thing you need are warp drives. These devices allow ships to dive into the warp and sail its currents, and then emerge thousands of light years away. Now the second thing you need are Geller fields. These are protective fields that protect against demonic incursions. They project a bubble of real space around the ship. Grey Crusade era Geller fields actually used comatose psykers to induce this field. Both of these inventions were created during M18. If either of them fail, bad news. The warp is a mirror dimension to our own reality. It consists of raw souls and emotions coalesced into a three-dimensional sea of pure psychic power, constantly changing tides and currents. If you are ever exposed to the raw psychic power and the demons that live within the warp, you can expect infiltrations of your ship by demons, mutation of the ship itself, such as walls turn fleshy, and the crew will get possessed. You may look to the side and see a demon bursting forth from the abdomen of one of your fellow crewsmen. Best case scenario, immediate death. Painful mutations resulting in quick death may be more realistic. We navigate through the warp by using a strain of abhumans called Navigators. Navigators possess a third eye in the middle of their forehead, which allows them to observe directly into the warp. They can see the changing tides and currents of the warp, and guide the ship through it. They are also guided by the Astronomicon, the Emperor and the Golden Throne, which uses 1,000 psykers every day as fuel. They can see it using their third eye as a bright light or a lighthouse off in the distance. This gives navigators bearing as to their direction and position, and allows them to, as safe as possibly can, travel through the warp. Without the Astronomicon, traveling the warp is nigh on impossible. The time of a warp jump may vary. It is incredibly inconsistent because time moves strangely inside of the warp. You may emerge from the warp only to find out that you're millennia too late to answer the call to action. In other cases, you may emerge from the warp and find out that you ended up in the past. That doesn't mean that traveling the warp is always completely random. A standard voyage will take 1 to 6 weeks, depending on where you're going and where you're leaving from, as well as the circumstances you may encounter on your voyage. An example of bad circumstances from the 41st millennium would be the Great Rift, the Cicatrix Maledictum, a massive warp storm that spans the length of the galaxy. If you are on the other side of the rift, the Astronomicon will appear dimmed, or even entirely invisible. But, like I said, if you're traveling stable warp routes, it may take 1 to 6 weeks. The longest warp jump in recorded history was 1.2 millennia. The shortest recorded was 2 minutes, not counting voyages to the past, of course. When a spaceship gets lost in the warp, it becomes a Spacehulk. It will often merge with other ships and create a conglomeration of lost or abandoned ships, twisted together. This Spacehulk may drift in and out of the warp, completely random. Sometimes they won't be seen for centuries, only to pop up on the other side of the galaxy. Standard Imperial protocol would be to survey and report the location of these Spacehulks. If possible, lock it in place and scour it of any enemies that may be on board, and search for lost tech from the dark age of technology. If this is deemed impossible by the local governors, you must call in the Space Marines. These Spacehulks have been found filled with orcs, gene-stealers, Tyranids, demons, mutants, or cultists, sometimes more than one group. Many of these Spacehulks are chaos corrupted, like the Lost Hope. Protruding from the structure are tendrils, although whether the grasping tentacles are mechanical or belong to beasts attached to the hull is unknown. One of the biggest of these Spacehulks is the Broken Back. It is said to be the size of a large moon, with 16 ships identified. Battleships, inquisitorial black ships, and many more. Some are believed to be from Xenos origin. Millions of souls travel through the warp every day. Most will arrive safely and on time, working away in the bowels of their respective ships. But for those unlucky enough to experience the raw warp, even for a brief second, well, it almost makes me glad to be living my life tucked away deep inside of a hive city. Keyword being almost.